Sorry, Helen. Sorry, I was trying to get it rolling. Yes, so recording has started. Helen, do you just want to check in? And then I was going to ask if anyone could take any short notes, just particularly any key points or particularly websites. So many good ones each week. It would be really good if we could post it back on the Telegram chat. Is anyone up for notes, brief notes with websites? Brilliant. Yes, please, William. Great. Helen.
Right. Just a quick one. I've come here because I'm interested, wanted to make sure it was recorded. I'm going to have to leave. But I noticed there were 1 or 2 people from London, and tomorrow outside base, they are demonstrating against Drax. I'll stick a link in the chat if anyone can make it. I'm just not quite sure of the time because I thought it was 1 o'clock and now I'm seeing 2:30, so I'm checking on that, but I'll put it in a link. And that's me done.
Okay, brilliant. Lovely to see you, Helen. Dorothea, direct point.
It's kicking off at 1 o'clock, but there's the prayer meeting outside Westminster Abbey at 2:30.
That's
so
where
it's
I got
basically
confused with
1
the two.
o'clock to 2:30. But if with any luck, there'll be drummers from 12:30. Who knows?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, without too much further ado, over to the magical, marvelous Mothiur for telling us about the amazing projects to help our rivers and using the law to protect Mother Nature. Over.
Thanks. Okay, so thanks everyone. I mean, it was really great to hear as well, just all the different locations, because it just really makes it sort of real to hear voices and people speak from Hull and Leeds and Lincoln. All around the country, and that's what this is about, trying to think of ourselves as a nation, as rivers, and protecting the rivers which connect us all together, and looking at the legal means that as one of the routes that can help support the protection, but the civic stewardship, the civil movement, the gathering of communities that Jules was talking about, is such an important aspect, that together, that bringing that accountability by having all our voices together. I'm going to share some slides. I was quite interested actually within, because so my background as well, I come from also an XR roots, and then have now setting up New Economy Law and working with the Good Law Project on this case. And I just I'll be explaining about the route to that. But I just saw that XR, so that, they've got this dirty water campaign. And it's interesting that the branding, or that Good Law Project, are brought to theirs, which this is one element of, is the clean waters. So it's like the one that's looking towards the vision of where we want to get to, and using that as their kind of public facing branding, if you want to call it that. And XR with the dirty waters and what we're trying to stop. So slides. Can you see that?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm working with the Good Law Project. So New Economy Law is what I've been trying to work on since leaving XR, and what I've been bringing to Good Law Project, and Jolyon has a phrase, cause lawyering, and I've been trying to sort of bring this within this idea of movement lawyering, which is an academic principle. So I'm also working at the University of Law. So I do part-time teaching there at the environmental LLM. But movement lawyering for system change, I've called it, well, and the specific case here, sewage dumping and protecting our rivers. We know, I'm not going to go into much detail around what we do know, but the graphics really tell it all. That we've got these different trajectories that are happening all at the same time. The climate and ecological trajectories, which we know from XR, the climate goals that we're not meeting, the ecological goals, which are just as, well, even as destructive and as much risk as the climate ones. And here you can see a map from the surface sewage, which shows, it's interesting to see if you can see on the left and the right are the ones, southeast England, you can see all the ticks. That's where all the monitoring is happening. On the left is where you can see the spanner. Those are where monitoring is not, well, they're saying the monitoring isn't up to is not yet in place, or they need more time to put it in place. And that's all on the west coast around Wales, more poorer areas around Cornwall. And so what I'm trying to bring up here is the trajectory of health and wealth and power, because a lot of the climate movement has been focusing on the early stages, particularly around the climate and environmental issues from a particular, you could say, class of people, and it's kind of need to widen that field. And I find the angle of looking at wealth and health as and inequalities around that is one which really triggers people and really brings those issues up. A book that I've just mentioned there, which brings that up as well, is Inflamed, just mentioned there, with Raj Patel and Rupa Maurya, really looking at injustices around and using that as an angle to think about environmental issues. I've just started to read that, but it's really interesting. So that's just sort of an outline of where these different trajectories of the dirty water and where we need to move in terms of clean water. So how did this case with the Good Law Project come about? So as I said, I teach now part-time at the University of Law on its online campus. And I went to their research team and said, look, can I get some seed funding? Because I really want to explore a bit more this aspect called which was set out in Mary Wood's book, Professor Mary Wood. She's written a book called Nature's Trust. And in that book, she sets out a different paradigm for, particularly in the US, for how environment, a particular doctrine, which I'll talk about, but I don't want to go into the law.
Who was the author, sorry?
The Professor Mary Wood.
Oh, okay,
She's
thank you.
Oregon University. But they've taken a case forward in the US called Our Children's Trust, based upon Professor Mary Wood's work around what she called atmospheric public trust. So she's looking at climate justice, climate change, and saying that the atmosphere, she's extending a particular doctrine to say that the atmosphere itself, there's a trust duty over that. And there's a case called Our Children's Trust being led by a group of young adults. But it's
Sorry, who is the author again?
Professor Mary Woods. It's on the can you see the slides?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, yeah, that's the
book.
book.
Thank you. That's great, thanks.
Yeah. So they gave some seed funding to then go. I went then to Mark Willer's KC or QC. I actually went with Rupert Reed as well, and Dr. Charlie Gardner needed some, like, to actually, who are from XR, so, you know, Dr. Charlie Gardner, he's with XR scientists, and Rupert Reed, you all know from doing a lot of work with XR as well. And sort of went as a team to go to Mark Willers and say, look, what do you think about this doctrine being applied in the UK? You know, we have a very different.
Excuse me. How do you get onto the slides?
Can you see the slides?
No, I can't see the slides.
You should be able to see them. Phoenix, can everybody see the slides?
I can. Can other people see them? Thumbs up.
I
I
can.
can't see them. They're not there for me.
I can only see everyone's faces.
That's strange.
Oh, that's strange. Is anyone particularly good with tech that knows why that could happen? There's about 19 people on the call. Oh, it's got. Have you stopped sharing slides?
Yeah. I'm just going to try again and see if that.
Who was that saying they can't see it? Sorry, Matt.
Matt.
Welcome, Matt. Okay, do you want to try again and see if Matt can pick them up this time?
Oh, yeah, I see them. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Hey, thank you.
Crack him.
So yeah, we went to that was only back in August, I think around in August time, and Mark brought an opinion saying that, you know, yes, you could, the atmosphere is, looking at the atmosphere is too wide in a context. We need to narrow it down to what might be possible within the UK's practice, concept, and precedents around the public trust, which is more or less been around rivers, and explain that and the history around that, but around rivers. And then at that time, this was all building around the water pollution. So then went to the Good Law Project with the opinion and said, look, this is an opinion. I'm going to take this forward as a kind of legal case, sorry, as an academic with legal exploring the possibility of this doctrine being used. But if there was a case that was going at the same time, that would also really multiply the possibilities. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about movement lawyering. It's about trying to synergize these different layers, where you've got the academic that can do more of the exploration and speculative, but also open the field. You've got somebody on the ground that's pushing forward the on the ground legal case, and you've also got the public behind to build the momentum and the conversations around this, because this it all has an impact. So bringing so they decided on, because of it was Matt Willers, who's well-known barrister, the opinion, they decided, they agreed to take the case forward. So I'm working now as a consultant on the case, but championing specifically the public trust doctrine element, because they that it's a very it's going to take time to build that. It's not like it's a whole new field in a way, and so it's got to be built around more just areas of law that are more workable, more have more strength, which are the human rights ground. So you've got Hugo Tagon, who used to be the head of Service for Sewage. He's coming down on while swimming. That his rights for while swimming are being infringed. Richard Hayward oysters below there, that their oysters now are being poisoned, and they can't. They need to put more monitoring in themselves, and there's much more risk of the pollution. And the Marine Conservation Society also has come on board, which is the biggest conservation society for the marine environment. So they're specifically much more interested, focusing on coastal waters. But I just want to point out here is that on a legal framing, you've got to mostly on human rights ground focus it on around a infringement of a human right. I can't eat my food. I can't go swimming. So it's all, you know, you're not looking. You can't. You then have to indirectly talk about the environment and ecological impacts. And so what we're trying to push forward here, particularly through the Marine Conservation Society and the public trust doctrine as the additional ground, is the direct ecological impacts on stewardship grounds. And I'll just go into that in the next slide.
Is all of this affecting the oceans as well?
Yeah, exactly. So here are the facts. Okay, these facts aren't disputed by the government. So, you know, you've got these the outfall sewers, which are collecting both rainwater, and then through the rainwater coming through with the agricultural runoff, nitrogen and phosphorus. And then you've got your human, so one pipe system with the human wastewater. So you've got fecal bacteria, heavy metals, endocrine disruptors, these forever chemicals as well from microplastic.
What is all the ways we can like battle this?
I'm sorry?
What is all the ways we can battle this?
Battleness?
Yeah, like battle it, like stop all of it. Fight against it.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'm just trying to explain the background. We'll talk this so we can get to how we're gonna do that. Thanks. So understanding that particularly as you know, we've got heavier rainfall now. So basically the sewage system is not being built to be able to have capacity for this. So you've got, as there's more rainfall from climate change and more running into these pipes, either the sewage is going to come up into the streets in cities, or it's got to be put down and pumped directly into the rivers, which is what's happening. And the more that the public has, particularly, I mean, over the summer in Devon here, there was a lot of people becoming sick as well. So from this unmonitored dumping. Going back to what I was saying about trajectories and about accountability, I mean, over the last 10 years, we've had more and more deregulation for monitoring. So this is, I mean, you've got to look at the background as well as to why we're at where we're at. So there's been all this deregulation. If you might remember, in 2011, there was what's called the red tape challenge. This is all part of what's been happening around getting rid of EU law and etc. It's all red tape. And David Cameron saying, you know, I want to be the first government in modern history to leave office, having removed or reduced the overall burden of regulation rather than increasing it. It was all seen as additional red tape. But it's also deregulating. It's also allowing, you know, the profits not to have to go into monitoring and can go directly back to shareholders. So in that background, you then have the Environment Act 2021, which gives a particular duty to have some plan in place around storm overflow discharge. And that plan was released in August this year. So that's exactly the time when I came up, where I was trying to put forward this public trust doctrine. And then that was when Mark Willers, he said, let's judicially review this decision, because this will allow this doctrine to actually be then tested in the court. So it's a test case for this doctrine, as well as having this impact as well. So there's lots of different elements to it. Basically, the case is saying, and this is the battle bit that somebody was mentioning, we're saying this plan that was released in August, the discharge reduction plan, is not discharging this duty. There's a duty under the Environment Act to produce a plan, and we're saying it's not discharging the legal duty. Government then said, oh, yes, it is. We made a plan. And that's what they say. The duty, all that it says is you must make a plan. Well, we've made a plan. So that's it. We've discharged our duty. What we're saying, Good Law Project, in their grounds, well, no, you haven't. The duty must meet specified criteria. And it's all about what are those specified criteria part of that duty or not. Now, I've just quoted here what I see, and this is not a legal part, but it gives you the background to show that it's not just about the law, it's about particular ways that power, money, and ownership are understood. So here you see what the government has said. Look, this was in their response to the letter that was sent out in the pre-action letter. They said, look, the challenge of satisfactory dealing with storm overflows, yes, is a long-standing and is a big challenge that we know about, and you've not told us anything we don't know. In a way, that's what they're saying behind that line. But it's not simply to stop using such overflows. It requires substantial investment in new infrastructure. So this is where you get to the money bit. You need more investment in new infrastructure. The targets, we've extended them to 2050 because it's necessary to spend 56 billion over 20, and we think it has to be over a 28-year period. So what you're seeing is this kicking into the long grass, the investment. Nobody wants to spend the money now because, and they're saying, well, it's not like we don't, but the water companies, then you have to think about, well, what are the water, where are their duties? What are they looking? What's the most important thing for them? What are they prioritizing in this period? They know this investment has to happen. Why are they kicking into the long grass saying we're going to do it? We'll do it in this huge period over 28 years.
You're welcome to
And it goes back to this question of health and wealth, the trajectories of health and wealth. Our health against the wealth of others. So I've quoted here, it's just Jay Keynes, because I think it's important to think, you know, we think we're practical and we think we're doing something practical, like the government ministers and the officials think, you know, we just got to get on with the job. But behind that, we're usually slaves of some defunct economist. That's what Keynes was saying. And I'm saying, a map or a set of ideas. Set of ideas that we're really up against are these ideas of ownership. What does ownership mean? This concept, well, I put market justice, but market fundamentalism, growth as the idea. And Mark Carney was talking about the tragedy of the horizon, that the 5-year period where we've got political lines up to 5 years, and then it doesn't really matter what happens after that, because that's all we're thinking about. You've got companies that have got their quarterly reports and their profits, and that's all they're looking at. So these horizons by which we are mapping our duties, or thinking this is all that's important to me as a director or as a politician, that's the tragedy of the horizon that Mark Carney is talking about. So we've got these are the things that are behind the scenes that are actually pulling just as much as the ways in which where money investment will go. And so when you get to this question, and I live in Devon, and this book by Guy Shrubsole, Who Owns England, was about the territory of England, the land. What The Guardian has exposed is also, who owns the water companies. And what that report has shown is that most of the water companies are owned actually overseas. And so their ownership, their shares, the need for profit margins is what's driving where the investment money is going to go. So we're not in the necessarily as users of the water within the consideration of this system, which is being deregulated, where it's in private ownership under a market model, where the market model is that market mechanisms will lead to social justice. But of course, we're seeing that that's not the case. But these ideas still are running the show, and that's the problem. So how are we going to fight against these ideas? And that's why the law is also important. So what I just wanted to just very quickly sort of give a very basic sense of what I mean when I say ownership is the problem. Ownership of land or shares, there could be a multiple number of ways in which the law could have defined ownership. But what we have in the law that we have in this country, which is comes from a whole set of liberal ideas of freedom, but the right to it's a bundle of rights, and the key right is that if you can exclude anybody else from that's what shows that you have exclusive ownership over land. And this is a case of the House of Lords, which is about a lease right, but the right of a lease was defined as, according to this, it's reiterating this sense of exclusive ownership. Doesn't matter what's being said on the front, whether it's a license or not, but if you can exclude anybody else from the land you've got, that, or the lease, or the license, then it's still a right that can be defended in law, that the state will step in to enforce those rights. So that right to exclude anybody else from is running the show here, and we're trying to, what the public trust doctrine is trying to build a sense of a different way of owning, or a different set of obligations, so that over on top of the I can do anything I want because I own, there's a set of other obligations. I've put, the public trust is it's a very small box because it's doesn't have much strength at the moment, because it's not being used much. Commoning rights, I've just put there as another sort of box around to say there, another set of ways of looking at rights as well. We had the Charter of the Forest until 1217, which was all about saying, when we had a forest economy at the time, or
Why
timber
does it
economy.
not get used much?
Sorry?
Why does it not get used much?
I'll explain that, because it's not.
I don't think there's a big enough budget for it just now.
Sorry,
it's
I
not
wasn't
used much. It's not
asking you.
used much because there isn't much. Just thinking about the who goes to the courts, who gets to use the courts, where's the money? most of the people using the courts would be those who want to defend their particular rights. So you'll get property owners defending and lobbying, and the court cases will be, defense. So, you get more precedents.
Is it
you get
easy to
more
sign up to
understanding.
like go to the
public-
court?
There's no power. Currently, there hasn't been much. There's nobody with an interest in putting the public trust doctrine forward. So you could say that that's why it's not being used much, and there hasn't been much precedent. To explain, don't be afraid of. I thought I'd just put a bit of the text from the submission so that you can see it's not actually that scary. Because law should be for everybody to understand. That's what I kind of believe. It's not it shouldn't be complicated.
Moth, just checking flow. There is Matt had a question and Ralph wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Do you want to wait till you finish presenting, or do you want?
Yeah,
to
maybe if they could put either. Yeah, just keep the questions.
Yeah, sorry, I'll wait till you're finished.
Let's
Sorry
go
for
and put it in the
Yeah.
chat.
Sorry,
If you want.
just
Okay.
hard. It's just hard to remember the questions at the end.
Okay.
Just
Do you want to ask the question now? If you.
I like to just get them like going. Like
I'm
while
sorry,
you're
can we not
speaking.
interrupt? Can we not interrupt and just let the presentation go on?
Okay, sorry.
yeah, but I just kind of like to ask the questions as we're going.
I like to be tripped up.
Whatever
Just-
that presenter is happiest with, Moth, your call. Over.
If it's a clarification question, then yeah, I think that would be good to take now, because then it will help clarify. If it's a question about something, then if you could put that to the end, maybe. Is that
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, we'll go. What I wanted, so this, what something just take into mind is that this public trust doctrine started by, if you can see in the paragraph 86, you see Juliana, a washerwoman, 1299. This is how far back it goes. Imagine this woman has somehow put in place something that can be used now, 700 years later. And this is what the common law can do, not statutory law. So you just got to think statutory law is Parliament putting in place, what it believes are the obligations, like the Environment Act. But then, of course, it can frame it in such a way that actually what the government's saying, well, we've done our plan. We said we're going to put a plan in the Act. You have a duty to put in a plan. We've put in the plan. Job done. Doesn't matter whether it's how effective the plan is, such. But the common law is another set where you get the judges setting out the precedents. So this woman, Juliana, washing her clothes in a river near Winchester, the mayor of Manchester cut off her use of the water upstream, and King Edward said it was this doctrine that water, among other essentials, things are so essential to life that they are common to everyone. There's a duty to keep that, not contaminate it, and that doctrine is been not used so much in England because it's such a narrow concept. It's just around the water and the high tide, and it's been used in sort of beaches and rights to walk on beaches and things, but it's hasn't seen any broader use. But what we're trying to do is broaden it, but we need to start at a small scale and talk about the river. And so this, what he's done, what the submissions are doing, are trying to underpin this principle and saying it's a principle and get some judicial decision making around it that we can then use in the academic circles to kind of keep building it. And if you want to reflect on the mirror image of this was in 200 years ago when in America the concept of personhood was said, companies don't have personhood, and there was a series of cases that kept pushing and pushing and getting more and more judicial decisions to find out why the judges weren't saying it wasn't, and pushing until we got a decision that enabled or brought in the concept or the agreement that companies were personhoods under this constitution, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. So you can see how people with lots of resources use the law to keep pushing forward for their agenda. So I'm saying we need to do this on the other side as citizen movement, and this is why I'm calling it legal or movement lawyering, to see it as a series of strategic levels we've got to add and build together. And in the end, what we're trying to do is move from just this concept of ownership to bring under judicial decisioning this concept of stewardship that was brought in a way under this early case, but bring into a contemporary context, so that this right to exclude anybody else gets overlaid by these other ways of going, yes, you can exclude everybody as a private right, but you've got water, or you've got something that's so essential to life within the land that you own, that over that bit, there's a fiduciary duty, there's a duty to, and though that duty, we need to begin to set out in the laws to what are the criteria and the conditions to where that duty will come into place. And that's what this case will hopefully begin to set out. But it helps, because everyone talks about stewardship, but we can talk about stewardship as long as we want, but unless it begins to have some pushback in the courts where it can actually have some influence against these other forces, we're going to be constantly fighting against a riptide of ownership rights. I'm not going to talk about this one, but basically this is what I'm trying to work with the Good Law Project to sort of build this picture of movement lawyering where citizens and neighborhoods build accountability in at these different levels. But I won't go into that. But what I do want to talk about before I end, because this is the important bit, is that it is citizens and neighborhoods also, as well as the legal concept of stewardship, we need to actually understand and practice what stewardship actually looks like, because we're still coming from ownership models and state responsibility. So building these practices, I just want to give two examples. One near where I live, which is in Devon. So the Bioregional Learning Centre is building, I think Jules mentioned bioregionalism, and what's happening there is they are building this kind of learning centre, but within that they're doing lots of work with children, a river charter, to really build and give a lived experience of taking care over one's own local environment. So that's the caring aspect. And then near Guildford CEC, the River Way Trust, they're building, Ben and others are doing a lot of monitoring, so trying to build that accountability into, and then connecting with the university as well. So building citizen science models. So they're different depending upon what resources each person has or community has in their centre. And this is what I was trying to, why I went to Felix in the first place, was that, you know, we've got what's being built, what he's helped and you have all helped create is this network of climate emergency centres where communities from different levels of society, you know, having spoken with Debs before at Preston, you know, that the communities who don't normally have a sense of ownership, or never had a sense of ownership, having a place they can come together and actually begin to understand what shared ownership, shared responsibility is, and begin to build from these isolated world view that we've been building, begin to get that sense, and then use the law as well to sort of like as the sort of case as well that you could all hopefully champion as well, or build into your programs to explain what's happening there, so we can actually strengthen what we're doing together at these multiple layers. So that's what I wanted. So where we're at the case at the moment, the claim has been put in. We've got for permission for the judicial review. We've got the government have put their defence in, and so we're waiting to hear whether permission will be granted to go to full hearing. that's what I've got to say.
And
I'll stop sharing.
I've got my
Absolutely
hand-
brilliant. Thank you, Moth. That was fantastic. Let me just hop back to the screen there. Brilliant. Really, really good. I mean, it's really good to see we're pushing back legally.
Thank you very much. That was a brilliant presentation.
Thanks.
So I'm sure there's a few questions over to the University Challenge panel out there. Anyone want to either stick your physical hand up, but it really helps me facilitating if you use the little little yellow reactions button down the bottom and do that. Then we can see who's 1, 2, 3. But was that Susan and East Sussex first on the draw?
Hi
Over to
there.
East Sussex.
Yes, thanks very much. Thanks very much for the talk. I find it really fascinating as an ex-lawyer myself. I wasn't involved in environmental law, but I'm really interested in the grounds on which the current state of affairs can be brought before the courts. And I'm just wondering, did you look at other areas that might be possible, such as the basis on which these water companies were set up and whether they're actually acting in accordance with their memorandum and articles of association, or whatever the equivalent is? Are they actually acting in accordance with their purposes for which they were set up? Because it cannot be within their purpose to create pollution and to pay themselves and their shareholders unlimited amounts of money, having been set up 30 years ago and still not have updated the infrastructure. They've had 30 years at this game and they're still now saying we need another 50 years. So I'm just wondering, have you looked at all the other possible grounds for bringing a case?
Yeah, so thanks. Again, I can emphasize collaboration as a way in which to work, and lawyers are actually quite bad at this. They kind of keep it to themselves and we've got to take a case forward. So for example, Wildfish, they had a similar against. First of all, you have to think of the map in which we're working. So here, the decision is against the government's plan. So it has to be against what the government is doing rather than the water companies. But and this reduction plan, and so just they're bringing a different angle in. So with Wildfish and their lawyers, so there's connections there as well to see, so that we can see that we're not just repeating work and just competing against each other but actually each working in different parts.
Can I come in here? It's Ralph with my white hand.
Go for it, Ralph and Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Moth. That was a fascinating discussion. Maybe it's sort of a naive comment. Looking at the figures, I'm going to be, by the time this is implemented, there's a possibility, if I live that long, I'll be nigh on 100 years old. And I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm being skeptical, but I think the arguments will still be exactly the same. We have the water company is saying we've inherited an old infrastructure. We're doing our best. We're working on leaks. It's a financial issue. I feel that as people in the public, and I'm not talking from a political angle, just a common sense angle, where our strength is they are obviously breaking the law. There's no amount of justification by saying it's an old network that they've inherited. Yes, we're pumping sewage in when it's an excessively high rainfall and so on. I want my son, friend of Phoenix, to be able to wild swim. I want the oysters to be fresh. I don't want to eat them and have contamination. I want in Devon the Heddon's Gate to be clear as it was once, Heddon's Mouth. I feel very strongly that one can get bogged down in the nitty-gritty, and obviously, I'm not decrying what you're doing, but if one can find the weakness, and the water companies are earning fantastic amounts, if they can be hit where it hurts them, namely financially, and this is where we should aim at, if they are polluting our rivers, that cannot be legal. I don't want to know about excuses. I don't want any reasons why they should be allowed to do it. They are doing it. And if they can extend the deadline to 2050, I'd love to see it happening within X amount and hit them where it hurts. If they're polluting, the CEOs are personally liable, and it's like corporate manslaughter. They will go to prison, not the company be fined. A fine is useless with water companies because they're earning so much money, it's a drop in the ocean.
Oh.
So sorry, you know, maybe I'm being naive in this, but
No, it's, I mean, this is why I was talking about systems change, because it's all, I mean, there's so many different connections. You've got the Environment Agency, which has been defunded, so they can't do as much. The Environment Agency calling for water company bosses to be jailed because the fines they can issue aren't enough. So, you know, just being illegal, that can be built into the business plan and say, well, this is, you know, it's just a bet. Like, if we can lose this amount of money, but we can get this amount back from the shareholders, so that you know, it's not their duties are towards the shareholders. So that's still what's driving a lot of it forward. So the more that but the more that we can demonstrate the public, I mean, a lot of this science around, for example, the forever chemicals hasn't even been understood yet, and about how you know, even the thinking, when I saw the Marine Conservation Society, they were saying, you know, there was this belief that water would get dispersed in the ocean, but actually the way that the water cycles actually move and the way that the tides, when they started the monitoring, the chemicals aren't dispersing in a way that they thought would happen. So there's a lot of new science that's also having to be brought on board that might not actually go with commonsensical ideas.
It's good points. And Ralph, yeah, we've really got to give it to him strong. Coming over to Matt, I think, who's got a question there. Keen to get in earlier. Matt, over. You have to unmute maybe, Matt. Hello? Can you hear us?
Oh, sorry. I forgot what my question was. I was falling asleep there.
Long day.
Not worries then. Thanks.
Was there a question there, Matt? Okay.
Oh, sorry. I forgot what my question was.
If he comes back, Matt, then yeah, let us know.
That's okay. It'll come back. You can give me a shout.
Yeah, I'll give you a shout.
All right, cool. I've got a question there, really, and anyone else bung things up. So who really owns the water? You touched on that briefly. I did find a corporate watch thing I bunged in the chat, but a long time ago, my Uncle Bill, when we used to go down to Cornwall for kids' holidays, he worked for I'm sure it was like the South West Water Board, and I think it was publicly owned. And you know, whenever our utilities, as we're seeing with the cost of greed crisis at the moment, you know, whenever our utilities are privatized, then they cut, even with the rail network, whatever, they cut corners, maximize profits, and we're seeing, you know, tons of sewage and everything getting dumped out, and they're not investing in infrastructure because it's profit driven rather than supplying people with utilities. Can you tell us a little bit more? Do you know who now owns? I mean, I've heard something, I don't know if Chinese or Germany owns a certain amount of our water or transport or whatever it is. Who really owns the British water? Who have they sold it off to? I mean, they flogged everything over.
It's not me. Guardian's done far better investigation. I mean, they've done a brilliant investigation and really well graphically created. So it's very simply set out from their investigations about the ownership, as far as they can tell. But yeah, look, I mean, it's like the context of ideas are changing, and you know, the way things might not have seemed bad at the time, you know, in one way. When we think, for example, around you know, like a lot of the laws were created to drain land to begin with. Inland drainage boards were set up, and then all that inland drainage boards to drain land for farming has now led to that when they have rain, it's just like coming down hills and we're getting these floods. So the changing context of the environment has led to, we're gonna have to now we have to change the systems. What I'm trying to say is that there's almost like there's all this momentum, like we haven't yet got to the place where we think actually we've got to change the ideas by which we're kind of creating everything.
Over to Dinah 1 then, Matt number 2, over. And I'd like to hear from William Templeton about his project, someone briefly. We're coming towards the end time. Dinah, over.
Is that me?
Dinah, I think.
Sorry.
Then Matt.
Down here, there's a place called New Haven, where there was a very nice fort, and it was sold to the French. And at that point, whoever brokered the deal included that the people who had used that beach since time immemorial weren't allowed to use the beach anymore. It's all been fenced off with great big metal railings.
I can't really hear.
Saying that if you climb over the railings, you will be prosecuted. One day, a couple of years ago, when it was boiling, somebody pulled the railings apart and the whole of New Haven went down onto the beach, and it was fabulous. But the point is, whoever brokered that deal, they should be found, because what they did was against the public interest. It was a criminal act. They stopped.
That's ridiculous.
Their beach, and nobody has gone after them. And we sort of tried to think maybe we could get a French champion in France to talk to the French and say, this is so unfair, you've taken these poor people, they're poor people. The only thing they've got is this nice sandy beach, the only one between bloody Eastbourne and Worthing. You've taken their beach away. Please, someone give them their beach back, but nothing. Years later, nothing. What? How can that possibly be defensible? I don't understand. What? Well, anyway, we need a champion. That's all.
I think
Couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. That's ridiculous. So it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think actually that case, New Haven, I think it's, yeah, New Haven Port here is East Sussex County Council is one of the cases we're using for around the public trust doctrine. So I mentioned, so it's in paragraph 90 of the, if you go into the, yeah, so I mean, that's a huge case that was happened, went all the way to the Supreme Court around whether, but they you know, this is, but the, you know, decision was made that that beach wasn't a village green, or it wasn't common space, but we're using the principle that that court case came up with, because he had, Lord Carnworth, he actually came up with a statement which supports this public trust doctrine element. So yeah, and yeah, New Haven has got to place them. I visited it a few months ago with this coat of hopes that was going around a few months ago. I think last year. And that was where we started with this coat that went all the way. Walking.
Is it still an ongoing case?
That case, no, that one's finished. But we're using the case from the Supreme Court on the New Haven Port one.
Oh, really? Can it not get reopened or anything?
No, not
No.
the case itself.
Yeah, because that's just ridiculous.
Yes, and sometimes the ridiculousness of something helps build support the other way. So, for example, it's why I brought the commoning aspect in a bit, was because in Dartmoor, where I live, the wild camping, there's a landowner there has said, my land, again, ownership rights trump over these public access rights, over rights for accessing something. And he won. And so, but the fact that he won has brought up a huge campaign on the other side to say this is ridiculous, this is crazy. So sometimes you get a Pyrrhic victory. You get one victory of one small thing, but on a wider scale, it's part of a longer battle that actually can lead to more justice.
Nice. Matt, I think Matt's got a question. Matt, do you remember your question? Over.
Is there any ways we can battle pollution and freshwaters?
Any way we can what? Sorry.
Battle pollution and freshwaters.
But that's, yeah, this is what this this case is looking to do, and to reduce, so to get the government to
how much money has the government funded into this case?
Into the case? Oh, I don't know how much it's put into the case
to fix it.
What you mean into the?
I feel as if I'm not doing much to sort it.
Where do you live, Matt?
I'm from Scotland myself.
Just think if there's any rivers near, yeah, where
River Irvine. Have you ever heard of that?
Irvine.
Yep, River Irvine.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose this comes on nicely just to a point as we're coming towards the end, but if people are happy to stay from the 5:10, it is a very important conversation. We would like to see climate emergency centres potentially linking with a local river. I know the Guildford Zero Climate Emergency Centre has a very big display all about the local rivers, and they've gone out and they've done litter picks and cleanups, and then they've got a good strong link with Guildford University, and they are doing some kind of river analysis of how much chemicals and rubbish and other pollutants and things that run off farmers' fields and things, so that they can actually start monitoring it and we can get some data and they can start improving things. Now, we're hoping that this network gradually grows. It's more than the sum of the parts than just being one centre. If on one weekend we can there's now 21 climate emergency centres and rising, about another 5 getting very close to opening. If we could have 20 or 25 centres all going out and planting trees one weekend, or adopting a local river, say, and then they go out with a group of 5-10 volunteers and they clean up the river a bit and they monitor the pollution and they find out what's further up the river and is that, a chemical plant or what's going on with the farmers. Practical level. One other suggestion I loved from someone was flood defences. We are increasingly going to be, waters are rising, flood defences. I think the great work Ralph was telling me about this week. I think Mr. Templeton's got a feedback there. So just to seed that thing, we'll put it in the newsletter. If any of your centres would like to adopt a local river, get involved. The local river people who actually live in that river, I'm talking about the fish and the two-leggeds, the fish fin people and all the other animals, would really appreciate your help. Mr. Templeton,
can I just add on to that?
Go Mark. Yeah, and then
is that this sort of working together, I think, is really, because it really builds up when people, as we know, when you do things together and at the same time. So I know that on the Dart, they're having a Let's Talk the Dart kind of day sometime in May, I think. So I have an exhibition about to bring people together. So imagine, if there are people here who are thinking of doing something around their river, maybe, having that as a framing, let's talk Irving. Let's talk the River Irving. Let's talk about whichever river is in your local area and use that as a boundary. And then if it's in the same month, maybe then that would also, like in May, then that could help bring synergies together.
Oh,
and I can also put you in touch with Emma Hopkins.
Is anyone aware if there's any like places you can go in Scotland to, like, any community centres which know about this stuff? Because I've not really seen any places.
Matt, there is a network of climate hubs. The Scottish Government, unlike the south of the border, who aren't as good on climate, the Scottish Government apparently gave £40 million to set up 40 climate hubs. So if you try and have a look at the Scottish climate hubs.
Yeah, I'll have a look in Google, see if there's any about, go in and get a bit of information and stuff.
I'm in conversation with a number of groups about trying to get some climate emergency centres going in Scotland, but that's another story. But yeah, look up the climate hubs and tell us where you are, send us an email update and we'll try and link you up with the Scottish bioregional groups. That would be great. William, can you tell us a little bit about your project? And I think Dorothea and Jessica would like to ask a question. It's a fascinating subject this time, so if the group is happy to carry on for another 10 minutes or so.
I'll just tell you very.
You need to go, you can go, but yeah, William, over.
Basically, yeah, it's been going around the country. I did it in England predominantly just for ease. It started in lockdown and I've been going around the country meeting different people who have come up with different solutions and implementing them, from reed beds to pressure groups to, people that, also people that have beavers that can, as was mentioned, lots of waterways were straightened, causing lots of problems, flooding, The beavers thing's interesting. In fact, I realized that we don't have lots of time and I could talk about this personally for about 3 hours. But what I wanted to mention was, one, will you share the slides? Is that possible?
Yeah, no, I can do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I've written. If Phoenix is are you a good person if people want to connect, like just to collect emails or something, like, so we've got a sort of a network.
Well, generally, if you want to stay in touch with the Climate Emergency Centre network and get maybe an email every 1.5 to 2 weeks or so about what the network's doing, then please direct message me your email. There is a Telegram group. Please join that. It's further back in the chat. But specifically, I was going to, one of the questions to Moth, as Fraser Clark, late great rave guru, used to say, what are the next 3 steps? How can people?
Can I just say one thing? Sorry.
Go on, carry on. Yeah.
Basically, I just wanted to say, yeah, I've been meeting a lot of people that have come up with lots of like nature first solutions, having just gone back to how the land used to be, which has been fascinating, and lots of people that have been harmed. For instance, if you did, I don't know if you need more people to talk to, Moth, but there are a few people that I could direct you to that I have like legitimate cases to put forwards as building of evidence. For instance, the Whitstable Oyster Company have also had the same problem as your oyster person. But basically, I just wanted to say that if there is anyone that would like to be part of the project to tell their story, please contact me. I've put my email address on the chat. It's create@williamjoshuatempleton.co.uk. And I would love to be able to tell your story and share it further to hopefully to just, build a coherent message of the breadth of what's going on and hopefully get people to get behind the movement. There'll be a book and an exhibition later on in the year. Brilliant.
We'd like to hear more about that, William. Is there a web link as well?
As it's a project that's currently my email address is create@williamjoshuatempleton.co.uk. My website is williamjoshuatempleton.co.uk. So you can take it from the other side of my email address, but there's as it's an unfinished project, and it's something that I do in my personal time outside of my professional photography work. It's something that is just sort of kept with me until complete. So at the moment, I don't have much to share. There's a few pictures on Instagram, but really, once it is complete, and with anybody here who wants to be involved to help, then it will be, obviously, of course, shared far and wide as possible.
Okay, just Moth, if you want to share your direct email if people are specifically interested in the rivers, maybe pop that in the chat if that's a way. I'm going to come over to Dorothea and Jessica for quick ones because fascinating subject. We've gone a little over and we generally keep to an hour, 5, 10 past, but this is really important to protect. Water is life. So Dorothea, Jessica, and then a little sum up from Mothiur and how you can get in contact. Dorothea, water defenders, anti-HS2.
Yeah. I'm mostly anti-HS2, of course, but somebody earlier mentioned the Pym Creek, which is a tributary of the River Lee, and I'm very interested in what people were saying about that. It goes through East Barnet. It goes right down all those parks at East Barnet and then joins the River Lee that then joins the Thames. Was it you, Ralph?
Yes, Dorothy. It was just there is a group, very active group called the Pims Brookers.
Oh, right.
They just produced a film about it, of which I was involved, and it's almost turning what is like a concrete conduit going behind people's houses full of supermarket trolleys and things, and trying to turn it back into a meandering stream as it was in previous days. So that's a very good use of changing an urban, almost open sewer back into a live river. So that's a very interesting concept.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, the River Fleet got well buried. So I think it'll take us a while to get that one up to the surface again. But we should be moving, this is a quick word to Will, that we should be moving the boat soon. So I'll let you know when that happens.
Okay. Over to Jessica for a quick one, and we're going to wind it up, folks, but please do, Mothiur's put his contact in there, so get in touch with them direct. Let's defend our local rivers. Water is life. Mitchell, I'm trying to remember the Native American part. Micholny. Okay, Jessica, over. Oh, you're muted. Unmute. Hello. You're still muted.
Oh,
Jessica.
Jessica.
Am I unmuted now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you. So I was just wondering, because I don't have a huge amount of experience with rivers other than knowing that they're in trouble and living near one. And I was just wondering whether anyone else, because there seem to be a lot of people quite knowledgeable here, knows knows how we would go about starting to measure or monitor pollution in a river.
I would say, well, those who have already done that would be quite good. I think Ben in was it Ben Phoenix who was in? Yeah, Ben in so if you put your
Is that
email
at Guildford?
or Phoenix, it's at Guildford, yeah. So
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they'll have
Guildford.
experience of how to do that.
If you look on the climate emergency website under the map, there should be an email. We've got to do a bit of updating there, so it's a bit out of date, but there are lots of new centres. But yeah, Guildford has worked with Guildford University, some kind of physics or biology, whatever it is, department, and they are going and monitoring the local river. So check with them.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't, just to chuck something in here, isn't the Environment Agency under a duty anyway to measure pollution in rivers?
Yeah, this is where we get into the problem, because we think that they have a duty, but then they haven't got the resources to do it. They haven't got it in the right, necessarily the places. They're not measuring the things that a lot of these things aren't actually measuring, like the forever chemicals. They're not measuring for those in a lot of instances, and so we have to think about the power dynamics as well that's happening as well. I mean, it's becoming more and more clear that's also there's a lot of politicization of, let's call it that. I mean, that's what but Mary Woods calls the capturing of public bodies by, or the politicization of public agencies.
Okay, guys, absolutely fascinating, very popular one tonight. I'm just going to remind ourselves that as the water is life, as the indigenous people of Turtle Island say, Mini Wachoni, we must protect our waters everywhere. Absolutely fascinating talk, Moth, and let's anyone get in touch with Moth. Let's keep the ball moving forward. Adopt your local river, do whatever you can to protect the waters for all future generations. So if you do need to beam out, do go, but maybe we'll do a little check out, go around, say what you think of the talk, or anything like that, and then we'll beam out. But thank you very much for coming, giving us an hour and 10-15 minutes of your very precious time. See you next week for a general moot, which is centres from all around the country come and say how they're progressing, and we all try and help each other with advice and support. So please come next Wednesday, 7 o'clock. And I think the Wednesday after, we've got Joseph, how do we get his name in the right order? Coates Davis Coates, coming from down in Bridport. He is doing a practical plan of how to create donut economics in Bridport, and he's having a lot of success with getting a lot of groups together and getting buy-in from the council. So if you want to know how to build a donut economics plan in practical terms in your town, come not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. All right. Thank you very much, Mothiur. Do you want to just do a little sign outs at the end of your talk, and we'll go around for sign outs? Thank you.
Just thanks for coming and some great questions. And it feels like there's a lot of expertise just in this room, a lot of care, a lot of commitment, a lot of understanding as well, and just helping and bringing my bits. And I think if we each bring our bits together, we'll be able to get somewhere, I think. Thank you.
Well done, Phoenix, for putting it together.
Big up,
yeah,
Ralph.
thanks, Phoenix. Oh, there is one thing I just wanted to mention as well, just because somebody mentioned about disused areas in rivers. So I know Phoenix, I met with Phoenix, but at the London CEC, and there was somebody there who said he was walking around the river and he saw bits that were enclosed, and he said, wouldn't this be a great place for summer when children and he wanted to go and talk to the council and open it up. So just even that bit of like nature, in what the term now is being used is nature positivity, about using, looking at nature positively, about that relationship. And if there are any bits that look disused or full of crap, and trying to not just think of it as a cleanup exercise, but as a place for where relationships can be built in some way. And that guy that Phoenix mentioned, I think he's got some really good ideas around Islington. So it's just making those connections, really.
That's Mark from the Islington area, and there is a patch of land he's going to ask the Canal and River Trust to use. There's also a group coming to Ilford Climate Most of the River Roading Trust. They're clearing up and working things. Over to Dinah and Pius for sign out parting comments. Over.
Very much, absolutely brilliant and bang on time. We're starting our water event on the 18th of March. There's 4 weeks celebrating water in Lewis. So thank you so much for that. We'll use some of that in our stuff, and we'll see if we can get a river charter for our riveroos. Thank you.
Brilliant. Pius in sunny Uganda, the place that really is sunny. My regular joke. Pius.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Phoenix. And Evan, thank you for the presentation. I'm just asking myself this. You know, whenever I think of social or community issues, first of all, I think about sensitization. You know, everything begins with a human being themselves. So I ask myself the percentage of pollution to the rivers, to the waters, of the daily human activities like pollution of plastics and what, and then the pollution of industries pouring wastes in these rivers. I wonder what percentage is there in statistics, and what can we really do? Is it that the human activities that are bigger contributing to pollution of the rivers, or is the industry that does the bigger part of it? When you were presenting, I had that thing re-echo in my mind and came on asking.
50% of it, roughly, that we have in England comes from sewage overflow. About 10 to 15%. It's really hard to know exactly, right? Comes from urban runoff. So I'm pointing out my window to a tarmac road. I live in London, so yeah. And then again, 30%-ish comes from agriculture. And there's obviously a proportion that comes from industry, but it's hard to be exact. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Do you want to put the closing comments, William? How is it just, yeah.
Closing comments, yeah, sorry.
Comments,
that was great. Yeah, rather than continue. That was great. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure, and hopefully lots of these conversations. This has been a great nursery for seedlings to grow. I think there's lots of good conversations to continue from here, and lots of connections. Hopefully we'll cement. So thank you.
Right, over to Jessica.
Thank you very much. It was a great talk, very interesting. Thank you.
Who hasn't checked out? Tim, and hoping you're linked with Hull because you're close by regionally.
Yes, God, there's a lot to think about, isn't there? But yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Yeah, I mean, it's captured people's imagination around here, the whole thing. And yeah, I do like this idea of adopting a river. Certainly something to talk about. And we've got a beautiful river in Lincoln and Lincolnshire, with all sorts of different chalk streams up in the Wolds as well, which are under threat. So yeah, thanks very much. Thanks very much for a great evening.
Coming over to Alan, I just remember that there's a thing about New Zealand. They've given rivers rights, and the spirit of the river is protected in New Zealand. Over to Alan, hoping you're linked with Lincoln. Over.
Yes, I hope we can strengthen our link with Lincoln, Tim, as we share the Humber between us, which is a fairly large river that needs looking after. But we also have the River Hull going down the other side, and lots of drains going into it, which are all getting polluted, as I mentioned earlier. So I go along them in my canoe, and it's not good what I see. So yes, I'm really keen to do more with this. So thank you very much, Moth, for that presentation. Really useful. And William, for your information as well. Very useful indeed. So I will be following up and hoping to get more information from all of you. Phoenix, you're a star. Thanks for that. It's been great to learn more tonight. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Amazing work you've been doing for 30 years. You're doing the dream. We've been on it 30 years too, but yeah, you're doing it. Over to Ralph in sunny Southgate. Absolutely legend, planting thousands of trees, supporting the beavers.
Thanks very much. I'm really glad the way everybody could come together, all different ages, dynamics, backgrounds and locations. And I think this is what it's all about. We have one common ethos. I don't know, living in a better environment, and more power to our joint elbows. Let's see if we can actually do something. And hopefully I'm still around to see it come to fruition. Thank you, Phoenix, for putting it together.
Oh, I got a big tingle. Big up the Fluffy family. Okay, but I'm going to send this to Fluffy. Tell him, watch your dad. He was brilliant. Right, over to Julian in Swindon or Bristol. Over.
Thanks, Phoenix. Yes, another great one. Quick question. Sue Deedigan in Wiltshire is doing a project about agricultural runoff into rivers in Wiltshire. I don't know, Moth, if I should ask her to contact you, or if you're not really particularly interested in sort of that sort of project. And the other comment is that our rivers around Swindon are pretty bad, and it is a good idea for a sort of community project around Swindon. So thanks for all that.
Thanks. Yeah, just, I mean, my email's there, so just feel free to get in touch. Thanks.
Daisy McDonald. I don't know if there's a famous Daisy McDonald somewhere. Daisy, do you want to just check out or parting comments over? I think that's most people, but maybe speak up. Debs. Daisy, who would you like to weigh in for the end? Can you hear us, Daisy? Okay, coming over to Debs in Preston. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still behind my stones.
Stoned again.
Stoned again. I was just thinking about this Nortar festival thing and maybe linking it in with the rivers and things. Nortar to crappy rivers or something like that. Something I should know more about.
Great. All right.
Who's that been?
I think it might just be Daisy. Anyone else? Dorothea, has anyone else not been? Okay, it's been a long one. Daisy, are you with us? If not, thank you very much, folks. Another fantastic one. We should change this into the webinars podcast thing, and we will pump it out on Facebook and Twitter and a few other things afterwards. But these really incredible work. I hope that a beautiful river network flows through all the different 21, 25, 30 centres that are growing and more, and really does a defence shield for our rivers, because what we're doing to the water people and the rivers and the oceans is terrifying, and we really need to get together and clean them up and start using biodegradable hemp rather than plastic, and looking after all the fish people and river people. All right, thank you very much, Mothiur. Thank you. Absolutely smashed it.
Thanks everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Fabulous. Thank you. Take care.
I'll put a copy of chat in the Telegram.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, okay. And William was recording. Let me just stop recording this a sec. Okay, stop that.